Gardner, and this is the continuing Academy of Self series, and the title of this particular reading is Real Peace of Mind through the Power of Creative Affirmations, How and Why It Works. Inspirations. Living a spiritual life is a loving encounter with each moment of time, where every breath breathed is an affirmation of joy, and every affirmation is a declaration of independence. It is through the guilelessness of wisdom that integrity is developed, whereas it is through the guilt of knowledge that conscience is imposed. The children of parents who walk in wisdom have no need for a conscience, inasmuch as their inborn integrity will assure them enthusiastic feelings, optimistic thoughts, resolve in action with security and wisdom. If a rich man would not give up all of his material wealth for real peace of mind, he either already has it or he is a fool. He who trusts his wealth is an utter fool, but he who is fulfilled with love, secured in wisdom, and freed by truth has real peace of mind. Anyone who has an intellectual attachment to ideas, ideals, and ideologies, as well as having an emotional fixation upon people, places, and things, is suffering with a morbidly dominant system of values which precludes peace of mind. First of all, peace of mind is an individual proposition. And in order to have the real peace of mind spoken of here, the mind of the individual must be an equable interface throughout which the fathomlessness of the person's nature and the limitlessness of the person's true spirit are in a perpetual interaction. In other words, real peace of mind requires a true integration of the individual's nature, mind, spirit. Real peace of mind is not possible unless the dynamic spirit is freed by truth, the holistic mind is secured in wisdom, and the energetic nature is fulfilled with love. These three levels of being are upheld through an infallible spiritual integrity, a faultless mental intuition, and an accurate physical instinct. A spiritual awakening assures a mental awareness, which in turn guarantees a physical alertness. Real peace is therefore an intrinsic state of mind arrived at as the result of being penetrated by truth, whereby wisdom is conceived, which keeps all integral persons alert, aware, awake, within the actuality of here, in the reality of now. Integral persons are a three-in-one integration, otherwise they are not integral persons. All to re-establish this threefold condition of equipoise is profoundly simple for truly sincere persons. But it is, however, absurdly difficult for the contradictory, vacillating personalities, and is in fact impossible for all unalert, unaware, unawake personalities as long as they lack the essential love, wisdom, truth essences, which are the necessary substance of integral human beings. The love being infinite is not an emotion, but is a spiritual response to the sacredness of all things natural. The wisdom being universal is not an acquisition, but is a guiding light that illumines the mind. The truth being eternal is beyond the intellect, but is an indefinable integrity which goes beyond the inflexible morals, the austere ethics, the unyielding values, and the rigid standards of a dispirited society. It requires a dynamic transpersonal psychology and an energetic personal religion to come together in a holistic mind if real peace of mind is to be obtained by the individual soul. It was Carl Jung who said, "Religion, if nothing else, is obedience to awareness," which is what is meant here by a personal religion. A transpersonal psychology takes the individual awareness beyond the ego, above the self, and transcendental to the personality. Real peace of mind transpires when the awareness of the individual psyche and the consciousness of the individual soul are united within the mind of an unrestricted individuality. The psyche represents the sacred feminine principle of infinite love, while the soul represents the divine masculine principle of eternal truth. And when they have reunited as the higher self of the unrestricted individuality, wisdom as the ultimate reality actualization takes place within the conscious awareness of yet another integral human being. The real peace of mind attained through this union is also the ultimate liberation, in that the person has acted upon the admonition to know thyself, to heal thyself, to be thyself, and to love thyself. Narcissistic self-love, however, is self-centeredness without self-respect, whereas to love thyself is the actualization of the higher self and the final death of the ego self. Real peace of mind, through the power of creative affirmations, requires the emptying of the subconscious of all destructive prompters. These block the light of pure reason from clearing the reactive conditioned mind of its memorized mental limitations and ignorance. It is most essential that all freedom seekers break away from the mesmerized masses and disconnect from the morals, ethics, values, and standards of the degenerate mass mind sphere. This mass mind sphere is the autocratic tyrant which binds the dispirited society to a blatantly credulous ideological nonsense that imprisons the soul, the psyche, in the mind of the foolish adherents. If there ever was a devil, it would have to be the mass mind sphere, with its outpourings of mental effluvium, which creates the conformed mediocrity of the sophisticated materialistic masses with their worship of worldly wealth, glamour, and unnatural stimulation. All of this egocentric energy is eventually and inevitably enervating because it lacks the absolute power of love and the absolute power of truth, and therefore the ultimate power of wisdom that is essential for real peace of mind. The constant pursuit of pleasure, with its continuous running from pain, is a vicious circle which results in a total loneliness and abject misery when all that was desired was a little peace of mind. The pseudo-peace of mind encountered in the midst of pleasure is a will-o'-the-wisp that causes the countless psychic kickbacks which ceaselessly devastate the soul and torture the mind. They force the sufferer to seek help through religions that have failed, psychiatrists that shrink the problem but never solve it, and self-help books which only help the author. And the fact of the matter is that these devastated souls are both the problem and the solution, since the problem is the shallow, wishy-washy ego self, while the solution is the profound, quick-witted higher self. The credulous nonsense suggested by the wishy-washy ego self has filled the subconscious with the memory of ineffectual belief systems to which the restricted personality is foolishly loyal. The final effect is an overwhelming, debilitating enormity that kills the spirit, destroys the mind, and finally dispatches the body into an early grave. Inasmuch as all mental illness is no more than irresponsible, a lingering hysteria, practiced by a self-pampered brat, whether adult or child. This might seem like a harsh evaluation, but it is a fact that the only ones that seem to recover are the few who become responsible, get honest, attain control, and learn to express themselves as mature adults or resolved children. Depression, for instance, is the result of repression because of a fear for the consequences of expression, and a persecution complex ensues. After a period of depression, a manic state finds expression due to the delusions of grandeur suffered by the ego self. In other words, every manic depressive is a paranoid, and every paranoid is a manic depressive. But these names, like all others that describe so-called neurotics and psychotics, are just psychiatric terms used to describe the irresponsible, malingering hysteria of self-pampered brats. Amongst dogs it is called distemper, but perhaps ill-temper and ill-natured would be more appropriate for these peevish, irritable, unkind discontents. If the masses of malcontents and discontents are looking for sympathy, they should be told to look in the dictionary between symmetry and symposium, meaning pleasing proportions between parts of a whole, and meeting for a discussion of a particular subject. Perhaps if a discussion on all imaginary mental illnesses were to be conducted by those who are not fooled by appearances, these malingerers would again become whole. To be whole, of course, requires that the individual really wants to be well, and then they must simply stop believing their lies and cease playing their blaming games. Regained peace of mind is simply a transition from illness to allness through the power of creative affirmations. Inasmuch as the illness was the result of misqualifying the power of autosuggestion at an earlier time, perhaps as a child when awareness was limited and the defenses were down, it can be understood but not excused. If, for instance, it was suggested to a child that he or she was stupid, no good, and a failure for life, we have a victim of extreme cruelty. The problem is that the victim is guilty if nothing is done at a later time to correct the condition. It is so easy for the so-called mentally ill to blame cruel parents, but there is no excuse for the victim to cruelly continue to browbeat the inner child when it is possible with willingness, receptivity, and honesty to become well regardless of the cruel fate visited upon the child. Many people make a religion out of their loneliness and sorrow and play psychiatric games by cherishing the labels placed upon them like a badge of honor by the mind-manipulating psychiatrists. To repeat the analytical psychologist Carl Jung on religion, religion, if nothing else, is obedience to awareness. And if a person's awareness is the unresolved conditioning received as a child from a cruel society, a fear-guilt-hate syndrome can be cherished with a vengeance. The dogmatic fear-guilt-hate cult of literal fundamentalistic Christendom can accept a large share of the responsibility for all sorts of mental aberrations, from alcoholism to full-blown schizophrenia. The non-Christian radical Jew, spoken of as Jesus the Christ, was an analytic psychologist who would agree with Jung's definition of religion. The profound simplicity of the Sermon on the Mount is a religion of love, of wisdom, of truth, which will assure a peace that passeth all understanding, because he was a benign anarchist and not a malevolent terrorist like those who followed his followers. He never wrote anything, yet the so-called Holy Bible, with all of its murder, rape, pillage, horror, and inhumanity, has credited him as the source of all that credulous contradiction. The Old and New Testaments is a very interesting history about a very angry people who have known very little peace of mind during the several millennium that they have practiced their Judeo-Christian indoctrination. There are, of course, many exceptions amongst the mystical adepts who have gleaned the spirit that giveth life from between the pages of the letter that killeth in both the Old and the New enigmatic books of the Holy Bible. It is, however, no longer necessary to study such archaic tombs, because in this age of light there are many cosmic copywriters and cosmic oracles who have fully realized the love that fulfills, the wisdom that secures, and the truth that frees. And they have managed this great enlightenment experience without a single moment of academic endeavor. Every one of the world's religions have consecrated their principal messenger and proceeded to desecrate the original message. Although there have been many messengers, the original message never changes, except, of course, a different culture with a different language keeps giving the same message. and it does not take too much deductive reasoning to be aware of this interesting fact of life. There is but one teacher of righteousness, which is nameless, and which indwells every human being as the tutelary divinity and spirit patron, which is the solitary source of individual genius. Genius is not a complex condition, inasmuch as it is a mind that is in a perfect state of equanimity, and which is harmoniously balanced between the immensity of that which is known and the infinity of that which is unknown, with nothing on it but peace. One of the masters of destiny called it the peace that passeth all understanding, and another called it Sat Chit Ananda, meaning being, consciousness, bliss. The point is that this real peace of mind transpires only when love is penetrated by truth, thereby wisdom is conceived. The peace that passeth all understanding is non-sectarian, non-denominational, non-theistic, but it is dynamic, holistic, and energetic, because it is venerable source is cosmic consciousness, cosmic reason, cosmic life energy, which substantiates the spirit-mind nature of all integral human beings, regardless of their culture and language. To be inundated with the real peace of mind that goes beyond all comprehension is to be inspirited with the promised comforter of the one master and the condition of moksha arrived at through another teacher. Moksha is the ultimate state of liberation, which is the illumination of a realized soul who is free from all selfish desire, from all psychological time, and from the false doctrine of dualism, with its God-devil, good-evil, moral-immoral syndrome, and its blind faith, vapid hope, loveless charity, abnormalities of Paulinism. He was the saint who advocated celibacy for everyone because of his narrow, anxious, moralistic solemnity in reference to the sexual intercourse. This insane taboo alone has caused a hell on earth into effect for many millions during each generation in which sex is dirty has been preached from both Catholic and Protestant pulpits, as well as by some Eastern hands, who desecrated this most beautiful and natural function. If it were possible to sin against the enigmatic Holy Spirit, the vow of poverty and the vow of celibacy must be the two greatest and most unforgivable sins. They are an offense to the sacred nature and the divine spirit of the living universe, and an affront to the universal mind. The spirit-mind nature of the ordered universe is the dynamic, holistic, energetic Trinity in unity that will assure the real peace of mind for those who have the intestinal fortitude to forego the Father, Son, Holy Ghost delusion known as the Holy Trinity throughout decadent Christendom. The whole of Christendom is a long-dead dogma, but long live the mystical Christ in the hearts of all integral persons, regardless of their culture and religious background. There are 7 cosmic attributes to the mystical Christ, which are unknown to any of the Christian fundamentalists. And they are the consciousness that creates, the life that immortalizes, the love that fulfills, the wisdom that secures, the truth that frees, the spirit that purifies, and the power that exemplifies. As it has been stated above, this is the age of light, and whether human beings know it or not, we are all children of light, and much more, inasmuch as the movement of nature is vibrating as each of us, the light of mind is radiating in each of us, and the sound of spirit is emanating from each of us. We are each of us a cosmic individuation, whether we know it or not. This absolute fact cannot be intellectually comprehended nor emotionally accepted, but it can be realized as the gnosis cardius, meaning knowledge of the heart, of any and all Christed beings, who have the accurate discernment, the precision awareness, and the righteous judgment which comes with the promised comforter and the experience of moksha. The real peace of mind through the power of creative affirmations puts an end to the external influence of the out-of-order established order, which are none other than the church, state, science, medical, psychiatric authoritarians who are the puppet masters over the puppet masses. All of the inner-directed human beings who listen to their interior authority have the real peace of mind simply because each is inwardly inspired and not externally influenced. They have each in their turn severed the emotional intellectual umbilical cord which keeps the intellect attached to old and cherished ideas, ideals, and ideologies, with the emotions fixed upon people, places, and things. This attachment and fixation detains the masses as prisoners of space in bondage to time, whereas the rare few who have the real peace of mind are free spirits and pilgrims for a time and space who are playing in the theater on the here-now stage with their higher self ad-libbing the script. The world is their stage, and each pilgrim is a player upon it, who is fully aware that birth is simply an entrance upon the stage, while death is merely an exit off the stage. Birth is not the beginning, nor is death the extinction of we immortal players. All that matters is that we each put our body, mind, and soul into the play, so that when we are off stage, in between acts, we should be well received by the producer-director. Unless we can be thankful for the gift of death, we cannot be truly thankful for the gift of life. Inasmuch as the first cry of a newborn babe is a death wish, and the last breath of the dying is a sigh of relief, we must each experience enlightenment in the interim, for all of that emotional commotion in between shall be an exercise in futility. It must surely be realized that death is just another one of the many blessings in disguise which are essential for our continued spiritual evolution into a greater awareness of the higher realities. The enlightenment experience reveals mortality as simply a disconcerting situation which only an awareness of individual immortality can rectify. With one eternal life and incalculable lifetimes as pilgrims for time and space, we continue to evolve to different levels of our supreme being throughout infinity for eternity. The reason that we cannot remember our past incarnations, or if we do, it is without certainty, is so that we can each be born into a karmic situation without the memory of having caused it into effect on our last round on the wheel of birth and death. In this manner, we start fresh in the innocence of ignorance, until we become overwhelmed once again by the guilt of knowledge. This gives us each a seemingly new start, with the opportunity once more to return to the innocence of wisdom by seeking the clues to the riddle of life, and learning from both our minor and major errors, yet not as sinners, but as evolving pilgrims. So be it. I thank you very much.